Please, order in the hall. Please, order in the hall. Please, order in the hall.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to special efforts by Israeli intelligence, my words are now also being carried. They're streamed live to the cell phones of Gazans. So to the remaining Hamas leaders and to the jailers of our hostages, I now say, lay down your arms. Let my people go. Free the hostages, all of them, the whole 48. Free the hostages now. If you do, you will live. If you don't, Israel will hunt you down. Ladies and gentlemen, if Hamas agrees to our demands, the war could end right now. Gaza would be demilitarized, Israel would retain overriding security control, and a peaceful civilian authority would be established by Gazans and others committed to peace with Israel. And of course, you understand that the war in Gaza has affected every Israeli. But I'm sure there are people in New York or in London or in Melbourne and elsewhere who are probably thinking, what does all of this have to do with me? And the answer is everything. Because our enemies are your enemies. So let's do something else. So first at the UN, let's do a pop quiz. And raise your hand if you know the answer. Here's the first question. Who shouts death to America? Is it A, Iran, B, Hamas, C, Hezbollah, D, the Houthis, or E, all of the above? All of the above. Correct. All of the above. Second question. Who has murdered Americans and Europeans in cold blood? Is it A, Al-Qaeda, B, Hamas, C, Hezbollah, D, Iran, or E, all of the above? All of the above. Correct. Again. So here's the point I wanted to make. Our enemies hate all of us with equal venom. They want to drag the modern world back to the past, to a dark age of violence, fanaticism, and terror. Giving the Palestinians a state 1 mile from Jerusalem after October 7th is like giving Al-Qaeda a state 1 mile from New York City after September 11th. This is sheer madness. It's insane, and we won't do it.
At present, the world has entered a new period of turbulence and transformation. Unilateralism and Cold War mentality are resurfacing. The international rules and order built over the past 80 years are under serious challenge. And the once effective international system is constantly disrupted. The various problems induced are distressing and worrying. Humanity has once again come to a crossroads. China is ready to take coordinated and effective actions together with all sides to offer more concrete solutions and promote world peace and development. First, amid the volatility and turbulence in the world, we must work together for peace and shared security. All countries belong to the same global village and rely on each other for security. We should uphold the vision of common, comprehensive, cooperative, and sustainable security. and respect the legitimate security concerns of all countries. We should settle differences and disputes peacefully through dialogue and consultation. Persisting in camp-based confrontation or willful resort to force only drives peace further away. China has all along acted as a staunch defender of world peace and security. China is the second largest contributor to UN peacekeeping budget and the largest provider of peacekeepers among the permanent members of the Security Council. China has been working actively to promote peace talks on hotspot issues such as the Ukraine crisis and the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. China will continue to play a constructive role in promoting the political settlement of hotspot issues. Second, amid sluggish global growth, we must reinvigorate cooperation and pursue win-win results. A major cause of the current global economic doldrums is the rise in unilateral and protectionist measures, such as tariff hikes and erection of walls and barriers. We should collaborate more closely to identify and expand convergence of interests, promote universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization, and help each other succeed by moving forward in the same direction.
Mr. President, we have been a country that has learned to struggle for its own destiny and control thereof. In the 20th century, we saw the beginning of a blockade on our coastlines in the Caribbean Sea and a coup d'etat against our nationalist general, Cipriano Castro, that was financed by oil companies and the government of the United States. The 20th century was one of bitter disputes between the ideal held by a nation that demanded the sovereign right to enjoy its own wealth for its own development and puppet governments that subjugated the country to foreign and imperialist interests. These governments sold our nation down the river and as such plunged Venezuela for decades into the most abject misery, poverty and repression. It was at the end of last century, in 1999, that the Venezuelan people succeeded in giving shape to the historic strength it had built up over decades of struggle. They ushered in a project for an independent, just and sovereign nation. That project drew upon the original ideals of Bolívar and was led by an extraordinary leader, Commander Hugo Chavez. And the project proved itself able to compel a people's movement to rise up to wage a peaceful and democratic revolution. Mr. President, since the very beginning, President Chavez bravely led a nationalist sovereign oil policy and undertook an epic journey to get OPEC back on its feet as a major multilateral instrument and a guarantee for global energy security. Today, 26 years later, global public opinion and the peoples of the world are acutely aware of everything done by the United States government to topple Commander Chavez and everything it did to lay waste to the historic project of liberation that's been supported and given new mandates time and time again by the Venezuelan people in 32 elections. With the passing of President Chavez, the people in myriad electoral and political events have reaffirmed their staunch support for the historic Venezuelan emancipation project, which is now in the hands of President Nicolás Maduro. It is also widely documented and known to all that war has been waged upon us in myriad forms. There is the criminal aggression that in the last decade has been waged against Venezuela to allow external powers to get their hands on Venezuela's natural resources and usher in a so-called regime change.
Ladies and gentlemen, a new global order is on the rise. Multilateralism is under strain, and fundamental tenets of the post-1945 world are being questioned. We witness attempts to revive the imperial ambitions of previous centuries. revisionist narratives are resurging. And some leaders, unfortunately, remain trapped in the past, chasing illusions of a bygone glory. Might over right risks once again becoming the norm in international relations. A norm the international community has sought to overcome for more than 80 years. And this trend is strengthening at a time when global challenges continue to multiply. Climate change, migration, the advent of artificial intelligence. Our world is changing. We must meet this change with courage and responsibility, but never, never at the expense of the principles that form the very fabric of the international community represented in this assembly. Most important of them being respect for territorial integrity and the peaceful resolution of disputes. Being situated at the crossroads of three continents, Greece is a pillar of stability and a reliable partner in a turbulent region. We uphold the principles of international law. We seek dialogue and peaceful coexistence with our neighbors. Some claim that these principles are irrelevant in today's world. We believe the opposite. They are the source of strength, the only path to lasting peace. And we are certainly not naive. We remain fully aware of the threats and the risks of instability in our wider neighborhood. This is why we're strengthening our economy, enhancing our deterrence capabilities, and deepening our alliances, so that we stand ready to defend and uphold our values. For us, this is not just words. Greece is already allocating more than 3% of its GDP to defense, and we're ready to do more.
Madam President, last year, in this August Assembly, I spoke to you from a country that had just witnessed a popular uprising. I shared with you our aspirations for transformation. Today, I stand here to tell you how far we have come on that journey. Out of every 100 people on this planet, nearly 3 live in Bangladesh. But our story is not important because of our numbers, nor because of our geopolitical location. Our story matters because it is a reminder of the extraordinary power of ordinary people. It matters because it inspires hope among nations everywhere, that no matter how deep the crisis, no matter how impossible the solution may seem, the path to renewal is never lost. Madam President, Bangladesh was born in 1971 through a bloody struggle for equality, for human dignity, and for social justice. Yet the very rights for which we shed blood so much, the very freedoms for which we sacrificed so much, have been denied again and again over the past 5 decades. Time and again, spearheaded by our youth, the people of Bangladesh have risen, endured sacrifice, and reclaimed those rights. This year, we mark the first anniversary of the July uprising. It was our youth who stood up. It was our youth who defeated tyranny, and it was our youth who opened the path to a new journey of building a just and equal society. The responsibility to carry that vision forward was placed on my shoulders and those of my colleagues. Rebuilding a devastated economy and state demanded nothing less than profound institutional reforms. We could have chosen the easy path, reforms imposed by executive order. But we chose the hard path, reforms built through inclusion and sustained through consensus. We chose the path that endures. Our goal is clear: to create a democratic order where power is balanced, where no autocrat can ever return, where no elected leader can destroy democracy, and where those who are meant to protect the people can never again prey upon them.
Madam President, we also address the conduct of counter-narcotics operations in the Caribbean Sea. Without judging facts not before us, including reports of lethal incidents off the coast of Venezuela, we restate a simple principle. The fight against drug trafficking must rest on cooperation and law. Interdictions should proceed under clear legal authority and rules of engagement that minimize risk to life, respect for sovereignty and the law of the sea, and prompt information sharing and review. Whereas Antigua and Barbuda stands ready to work with all partners against traffickers, we are concerned with the buildup of military assets, including a nuclear submarine indicating the possibility of military conflict. We remind everyone that our hemisphere should be respected as a zone of peace, not a theater of military conflict. Madam President, we also address Cuba. For more than 6 decades, the Cuban people have lived under a suffocating trade embargo, and Cuba remains listed by one country as a state sponsor of terrorism. Now, we all know that that classification is a hoax. It is in our hemisphere's interests to move towards normalized relations consistent with sovereign equality. Normalization is not a concession. It is a pathway to dialogue and to fashioning a way forward that ensures regional stability through negotiated binding agreements.